Working capital kind of diverts from this entire way in which we're discussing things. And working capital basically means, if I give you a bookish definition, working capital or amount of working capital is nothing but current assets minus the current liabilities. Current assets minus current liabilities is your working capital, which is to say, in this situation, I have current assets. Current is basically the short-term assets. I have short-term assets of 75. I have short-term liabilities of 25, which means my overall working capital in this case is 50. So my working, beg your pardon. Yeah. So my working capital in this example is going to be equal to current assets minus current liabilities, which is 75 minus 25, which is equal to 50. The calculation is something which I've done here. You can note it down too. But logically, what am I calculating over here? What is the calculation that I have done? I don't want a bookish definition. Bookish definition is very easy to, like, you can just say, okay, working capital is current assets minus current liabilities. 75 minus 25, you can remember that. I can make you remember all the 3 ratios and a couple of computations as well. And we can get done with the chapter in less than like half an hour or maybe an hour at most. But we'll be spending a couple of hours in the overall discussion. So logically, I want your understanding as to what do you think this calculation, what is it getting me to? When I say I have debtors, cash, bank of 75, and I have creditors, bank loan, and some other payables of 25, which is to say, I am sitting on some assets which are ready to sell or convert at, and they are 75, and I'm certain liabilities which I'll have to repay at any point of time. Like creditors, they can come knock my doors and say, you know what, you owe me 25, you have to pay it back to me. Same goes for bank loan as well, and some bank loan might be slightly different, but at least trade finance and other forms of short-term capital which I have taken, they can knock my doors at any point of time, or they can at least come to me in the next 1 month, 2 months, or maybe a couple of weeks, and then they can get their money back. And then I have certain assets over here, which is inventory, debtors, cash, bank, liquid finance, which I can convert into cash at any point of time. So essentially what I'm doing is I'm looking at, okay, how much assets do I have which can be converted into cash quickly? Because logically inventory can be converted into cash very quickly. The moment I sell it, it becomes cash. Debtors can be converted into cash quickly because they are people who owe me money. I can just go and knock their doors and say, you know what, you owe me 25. It's been a long while. Why don't you pay me immediately? And they'll maybe pay you in a couple of days. So here I have all the assets which can be converted into cash very quickly. Here I have all the liabilities which I'll have to repay at their will, or in a very short term period of time. So I have assets which are short term convertible into cash, and I have liabilities which are short term payable in cash, and I'm trying to compute the difference between the two. So I have more or less given the entire definition. So what do you think I'm getting to by saying current assets minus current liability, or short term assets minus short term liability, or inventory, debtor, cash, bank minus the short term liabilities? What is this number of 50 telling me? And would you rather want this number to be high or low? Like these two discussions, we can have it simultaneously. Would you be happy if you had 75 minus 25, or would you be happy if you had 75 minus, let's just say, 72? Is this a better situation, or is this a better situation to be at?
The first one is the better situation.
Why?
Because you have more assets.
So you have more assets than liabilities, which means I'm trying to say that, okay, you know what? If I have greater margin for error, you can say greater margin for error, you can say greater room, or you can just say that, you know what, it's always good to have more assets than liabilities. It's always good to have a lot of assets than sitting on a lot of liabilities at any given point of time, because then you have lesser headache. At least if creditors come, you don't have to say, you know what, come to me a week later, or you don't have to tell them you go back or something like that, because doing that in a business is never the right thing. I mean, if you can maybe ask this creditor to go back, but he's going to go back, tell others that, this is how this person deals with, let's not deal with him, and next time he'll be very reluctant when he's giving me credit as well. So these kind of things can be detrimental to the business overall, right? So for that reason, it's always better to have enough cash and bank balance and enough debtors, creditors in the book, so that You have sufficient margin that if in the event someone comes to you asking for money, you don't have to say, you know what, I'm waiting for my debtors as well. The moment he gives me money, I'm going to give it to you. It's not a logical answer to give. So logical answer at the first place is to have greater current assets than current liabilities, because that gives you a little more playing field into the ecosystem, right? There are certain exceptions to this rule. There are actually more exceptions than you would otherwise think of to this rule. Why am I having this entire discussion about working capital? Because it's a very important aspect for me to manage. Unless I am able to make or able to pay my creditors on time, if I'm not able to pay my creditors on time, they won't supply. They'll stop supplying. This is one. Unless I'm able to recover from debtors, they'll take me for granted. And they'll stop making payment on time as well. So it's a very important, and again, inventories as well, which are important factors here. Unless I'm able to be efficient with management, I'll again have a problem. So if you think of these 2-3 things, majorly it's all your current assets minus current liabilities. But if I divide it into multiple brackets and buckets, it becomes very important for me to manage each and every facet of it efficiently. Unless I'm able to manage my inventory properly, unless I'm able to manage my debtors properly, unless I'm able to manage my liabilities properly, which are short term in nature, it will be extremely detrimental to me in the very short run, right? So let's just say I'm inefficient with my plant and machinery. It's a very big statement, which is probably not going to impact me like immediately the very next day. But these are the factors which will impact you every single day. For that reason, we have the word current as well, because it's like in your presence. It's something that is happening every single day. And until and unless you're able to efficiently manage every leg of this efficiently, you will ruin your entire business, right? So for that reason, it's a current kind of affair that you're managing in the business, and it kind of arguably, of course, becomes very important for you to be ultra efficient while managing your current assets and current liabilities. That's why we're having this entire discussion of working capital management, calculating current ratio, quick ratio, and cash ratios, and all of these things, so that you are certain of being able to manage your liquidity properly. The word liquidity is to say the cash, basically. Cash inflows and outflows have to be managed efficiently. If you're not able to do that, you're in for a soup, and the business is, of course, going to go for a toss. Now, with that, I come down, and this one thing that we had discussed about. I told you one thing, that converting inventory into cash is a long kind of a factor, right? So if you have inventory, what you do with inventory is that you sell your inventory to the to people, and let me not write people, but let me just write accounts receivable, or we can call it debtors. So what you do is you make sales of your inventory to debtors. Sorry, I just wrote something. Debtors, pardon my writing. So inventories get sold to debtors, and then from those debtors you recover cash after a certain point of time. So you collect from them, or you recover / collect from them. What do you collect? Cash. So that is how you get to cash. In between this cycle, one more thing that happens is that, how do you get to inventory? The inventory comes from your suppliers / creditors. What do? Simply, they provide. So suppliers provide with inventory. Inventory, just 1 second, I'll write it properly so that you can also note it down efficiently. So suppliers, they provide you with inventory. The inventories are sold to the accounts receivable or debtors, and the accounts receivable or debtors, they pay you, of course, after some time, cash, and this cash is again utilized to pay your suppliers. So this is how your entire cycle basically works. You sit on inventory, you sell it to the accounts receivable or debtors. Once you have sold it, they pay you cash. After you have received cash, you use it to pay your suppliers, and the suppliers, they again provide you with inventory, and the cycle keeps on continuing. So, and this is the entire reason why, if any problem happens with this cycle, for example, if you are unable to sell your inventory, let's just say there are now let's try to understand what the problem can arise. If you are unable to sell your inventory, the problem will be you will not be able to make sales, and if you're not making sales, of course your business goes for a toss. If your accounts payable don't pay you in time, you won't have cash to pay to the suppliers, and if you don't pay suppliers in time, they will stop giving you incremental credit. They won't provide you with more of credit, or they won't provide you with more supplies. So every leg of this cycle is of course very important. If I cross out anything, if I say that okay, I'm not able to pay cash to the suppliers, I won't be able to get credit, I won't be able to make sales, and I won't be able to recover from them. So my entire cash conversion, and this is called your cash conversion cycle, CCC, is what you may sometimes see on your questions as well. So it is called CCC, or cash conversion cycle, and every leg of this is extremely important. Anything going haywire can of course jeopardize the entire structure.